We're doing a new thing in 2022 where now I see that I'm recording and I don't have to get up and look at the camera. So, there's levels to it. We're leveling up. Hey, welcome back to Tita Takes. Like I said, it is a new year and I'm excited to get started with my 2022 book series. But before I do want to just reintroduce myself since it is a new year and maybe I got some new followers thanks to my shout out LA article. Maybe you're new. I don't know. You'll tell me. Welcome to Tita Takes. On this channel, we recognize and celebrate literary and visual works of creative art written for and by people of color. We review movies, TV shows, and books. Now, I'm very excited to introduce you to my new book series. I guess I will call it a book club series. I will start posting a few times a month featuring my book club picks for that month. We are starting very strong because our first January book club pick is it's backwards for you. It is How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. How do I make it not backwards? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. This was by far my favorite book that I read all year. Not just mine, but also Obama. Obama came out with his favorite books of 2021, and this was the first one on the list. So we are coming at this gate very strong in this series, okay? Before we get started talking about How the Word is Passed, if you have not yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and go ahead and also click the notification bell so you are notified of any upcoming videos. Just to start off, I want to give you some background about the author, Clint Smith. Clint Smith may be best known as a staff writer for The Atlantic, which is one of my favorite publications, but he was also part of the winning team at the 2014 National Poetry Slam. He published his first book of poetry, Counting Descent, in 2016. It won the 2017 Literary Award for Best Poetry Book from the Black Caucus of the American Library Association and was a finalist for the NAACP Image Awards. He was on the 2018 Forbes 30 Under 30 list and Ebony's 2017 Power 100 list. So the man is decorated and qualified, okay? How the Word is Passed begins in Clint's hometown of New Orleans. Clint leads the reader through an unforgettable tour of monuments and landmarks, those that are honest about the past and those that are not, that offer an intergenerational story of how slavery has been central in shaping our nation's collective history and ourselves. It is the story of the Monticello plantation in Virginia, the estate where Thomas Jefferson wrote letters about liberty and documents about liberty, but also enslaved over 400 people on the premises. It is a story of the Whitney Plantation, one of the only former plantations devoted to preserving the experience of the enslaved people whose lives and work sustained it. It is the story of Angola, a former plantation turned maximum security prison in Louisiana that is filled with black men who work across the 18,000-acre land for virtually no pay. And it is the story of Blandford Cemetery, the final resting place of tens of thousands of Confederate soldiers. So, thoughts. This book, for me, 10 out of 10, 100%. 10 out of 10 for me. And I promise I won't give every book on this series a 10 out of 10 just because this book is a 10 out of 10 because it 1000% deserves. So I read this book as a part of a book club. It is called the Syllabus Book Club. It is in association with the Fulton Street Books and Coffee, which is a Black-owned, woman-owned coffee shop and bookstore located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So they have a book club affiliated with the store, and I just had to sign on. I thought, what better opportunity to be led through the journey of this book than in, communion with people who really care about, racial injustices in the state of this country and the historical significance of slavery and how it affects us today. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was very hesitant to start this book. There was a time in 2020 to 2021 where I think we all collectively had this, I don't know how to call it. We all collectively were exhausted of reading and ingesting books, media, live stage plays centering on the idea of Black trauma. I mean, it was a Black Twitter topic. And then one of my favorite contemporary playwrights, her name is Dominique Morisseau. She basically reads us to filth. Okay, all of us who have talked about Black trauma not wanting to ingest it, and she reads us to filth, and I'm gonna let you read it yourself, but I'm also gonna read along with you. Okay, Dominique says, "Let's talk Black trauma storytelling. The way that phrase is being thrown around as a term, bitch smacking everybody, including Black artists. The way it is being invoked in an unnuanced fashion. Thrown around not only for the sake of being literal and specific, but also to be an all-inclusive oppressor of Black storytelling. That all things struggle, pain, and fight now equal trauma." Which really means we don't know the difference between Black trauma stories and Black liberation stories. That all Black liberation exists in the conquering, addressing, confronting, engaging, and releasing of Black pain. Not stifling it, suffocating it, silencing it, erasing it. That joy without pain is a pseudo-joy. A bold-faced lie of joy. A joy that knows no opposition or has nothing to balance it. What is the yin to the yang of joy? Joy without balance is dehumanization. I'm gonna let y'all read the rest of it because it is lengthy. She goes on for a couple pages, but she just basically says that we collectively need to understand the difference between Black trauma storytelling and Black liberation storytelling, and to understand the difference and that there exists a difference between the two. I think at first glance, this book, How the Word Is Passed, if you didn't read her post or, had this idea that Black trauma porn was anything having to do with Black pain or the existence of Black pain, you might have shied away from this book. But when I tell you that this book empowered me in ways that I didn't even know was possible, it armed me with the knowledge and the tools to speak on history and facts, the facts in this book. This book is incredibly well researched. And it truly, like I said, it armed me with tools to speak on racial injustice and mass incarceration and slavery being the main driving force of the U.S. economy for 300 years. Clint really was in his bag when he wrote this, okay? He was in his bag. In fact, it's almost the main driving force that defines why the United States is the mega world superpower that it is. It is because of slavery. And I know this and I can speak on this because I read this book. And that is why I so recommend this book. This is why it's important for everyone to read this book. In order to make sense of today, we have to look back. I really genuinely want to thank Clint Smith for writing this book, because if it weren't for this book, I don't think I would have truly understood the influence that memory and history has on our understanding of today. To understand who you are, you have to look back, and to understand why we are in the state that we are as a country, blinded and in denial of its sins, you have to go back. So one of my favorite things to do when I read a book is to try to figure out its thesis. Why was this book written? For what purpose? And oftentimes I'll try to narrow it down to a sentence or two, because often that's all it takes to describe what a book or a movie or television show is about. Sometimes it really is one sentence. So for me, the thesis of how the word is passed is actually given to us. I will read it to you. The duty of today is to meet the questions that confront us with intelligence and courage. This was written by Frederick Douglass in The Nation's Problem. I urge you to be courageous. I urge you to be courageous enough to go and purchase this book. Like Ibram X. Kendi says on the cover of the book, How the Word is Passed, we need this book. And before we go, I do want you to play a short clip, because in my book club series, I want you to hear from the author themselves. So I will insert a clip of Clint speaking about how the word is passed and why he started the journey of writing it.
I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, in a very mixed race, mixed income community. I had Black friends, white friends, Asian friends. It was like the Disney Channel. It was great. We were riding our bikes with theme music playing in the background. Our hair was blowing in the wind. It's clearly their hair, not my hair. And my dad would always say, he's like, I love that you have such a diverse group of friends. That's why we sent you to this school. That's why we moved to this neighborhood. But you have to understand that the implications for the decisions that you make might be very different for you than they are for your other friends. And when you're a kid, you don't really understand that. You're just like, you're the mean dad. You're the strict dad. Why can't you be more like Tommy's dad? And he's like, Tommy don't live in this house. And then he walks away very dramatically because he was watching too many Denzel Washington movies, but that's another story. And so my sense of who I was always made clear to me, and it was amplified in New Orleans because I grew up in a city that was majority Black, but it was also surrounded by Confederate iconography and slaveholding iconography everywhere. The middle school I went to was named after a Confederate general. The street that my parents live on is named after a person who owned over 100 enslaved people. The street that I took to get to school every day was named after Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. And so I was surrounded by this sort of story and this memorialization, this iconography of the Confederacy in a way that always felt strange to me. But when I was young, I didn't really have the language to name it and to understand it. In 2015, they had as many of us remember, the Charleston Massacre, in which Dylann Roof killed 9 people who were in the AME Church in Charleston, Charleston, South Carolina. And in 2015, the city of New Orleans decided that it was going to remove several prominent Confederate statues in the city. And in 2017, they took those statues down. And when that was happening, I was thinking a lot about my childhood in New Orleans. And I was thinking a lot about the ways that the Confederacy was actually memorialized in far more robust and prominent way than the institution of slavery itself. And I thought that was so strange and so perverse. And I became increasingly interested in thinking about how in my city, in my hometown, what were the ways that it was attempting to reckon with and memorialize the story of slavery outside of the context of this treasonous army that was founded on and predicated on maintaining and expanding the institution of slavery. How do we tell the story of slavery and the people who were subjected to it? And so then it sort of broadened my vision, and I started to think about how different places across the country reckon with or fail to reckon with their relationship to the history of slavery. And that's what ultimately led me to writing this book.
And that's from the man himself. Thank you for joining me for the very first book review for Tita Takes. This is just the beginning. I'm excited to go on this journey with you. If you haven't yet, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, okay? And turn on your notifications so you won't miss any videos moving forward. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for being in communion with me and hearing me speak on this book that I love so much. I am sincerely grateful for your time. Till the next video.